Hello everyone, welcome to Everything Arsenal, and it's Crystal Palace once again. We just got done talking about the recent game in the Carabao Cup, but right away we turn our focus to the Premier League game against the same opponent. For now, for the next couple of weeks, there's no more Champions League until next year, no more FA Cup until next year, there's no more Carabao Cup until next year. The focus turns back to the Premier League for the next couple of weeks until the FA Cup starts at the beginning of January. And it's Crystal Palace again. Listen, Crystal Palace, I don't know. Do you guys think it's a good thing when you face the same opponent for 3 days and you beat them and you're like, okay, we now have the formula of beating them? Or do you think now after they've seen what went wrong for them and all that, they're able to like change a few things about their team and maybe try and mark out Jesus, maybe find a way to mark out Odegaard and all that? Do you think it's a good thing, or do you think it's you prefer facing them later on? So it's Crystal Palace again. We beat them 3-2, good win. But in the Premier League, we need to do the same. Now, Crystal Palace at home this season, they've actually only won one game this season at Selhurst Park, and that was against Tottenham. Of course, it was against Tottenham. That's the only game they've won this season at their place. They've had 4 draws and they've had 3 losses. They have played some good teams there. They have played Man City recently. They drew... They played, I think, they played Tottenham, Chelsea. You don't remember the other opponents, but yeah, they've had some tougher games at their place. But they've only managed 1 win, and they've only scored 6 goals in the 8 games. So I think that's kind of a good thing for us because we're still very good defensively. Yes, we conceded 2 goals to them. They can definitely score a goal against you for sure, even though they've only scored 6 goals at home this season. Mateta and those guys, as they can decide to turn up after he hasn't turned up the whole season, they can decide to turn up and they can still score goals against you. And for us, if you take our recent away form into consideration as well, it hasn't been great. We've only won 1 of our last 5 away games. That was that 5-2 against West Ham. But apart from that, we've had a loss against Bournemouth, a loss against Newcastle, didn't score in any of those games. We had a draw against Chelsea as well. Recently, we drew against Fulham as well. And usually the last 2 seasons, our away form has been great. But so far this season, it hasn't been great. That's where we've dropped most of our points away from home. If we can also add the Champions League to that with Atalanta and Inter Milan. Away from home, it hasn't been great. But there's still been big victories against West Ham and Sporting recently away from home as well. So let's hope we have that kind of a game. Now, usually when you play Crystal Palace away in those kind of teams, those tight pitches and all that, I don't usually expect like a 5-3 or, a lot of goals in those kind of games. It's usually tight. Like last season when we went there, it was 1-0. We only scored a penalty. Odegaard, it was, I think, the first away game of last season. Actually, the last 2 seasons, we've played them. Our first away game of the season has been at Crystal Palace. The previous season, the 22-23 one, the first game of our season was Crystal Palace away. Last season, the second game, the first away game of the season, was at Crystal Palace as well. And we won both games, tight margins, 2-0 and 1-0. They didn't score in any of those games. Let's hope it's more of the same this time round, unless Nketiah decides to score another one. Of course, Nketiah scored against us. All of them do. Fabregas did it. Van Persie did it. Adebayo did it. Theo Walcott did it. They all do it. When they leave us and they come back, they always score against us. Even I think Thierry Henry did it. So it usually happens. But this is a must-win game for sure. The results against Everton and Fulham, especially the Everton one, very disappointing. Now, it's been very disappointing in terms of not being more points ahead of Man City and trying to cover that gap between us and Chelsea and the gap between us and Liverpool. In that case, it's been very, very disappointing. You haven't taken advantage. But on the other side of it, it could have been worse, because if Liverpool had won those last 2 games, it could pretty much have been completely over right now for everyone, even those who still think that the title race is still on, like myself. It would have been almost over, like if there are more points ahead of us. Right now it's 6, it could be 9 if they win their game in hand. But you need to start winning games. You need to go on a run. Last season we were able to win like 16 games out of 18. The previous season we won 5-6 games in a row, like 2-3 separate times in the season. This season so far, I think we've only managed like 3 wins in a row or something in the Premier League. You have to win more than that in the Premier League to win the Premier League. I remember when Liverpool beat Man City to the title in 2020, I think they won something like 16, 17 games in a row. That is what you'll need to do. And that is maybe what we'll need to do to even catch up with Liverpool fast, because that is what we need to do. Catch up with Chelsea, catch up with Liverpool, and try and go ahead. So we need to go on a winning run. And from the next games that are coming up away from home, no disrespect to Crystal Palace, but this is probably the easier one because you have Brentford away. They've been the best team at home this season. That will be January 1st, the new year. And then we'll have Brighton away. And then the January will be hectic. That January, depending on which team you're going to get in the Carabao Cup draw, we are going to face Man United in the FA Cup. We're going to have games against teams like Aston Villa. I think you're going to have like 9-10 games in January. So it's going to be tough. So we need to win these games that are coming up in December, Crystal Palace and Ipswich. We need to win these ones. There are big games coming up, and we need to win both of them. Hopefully, we can score a few goals. It has been long since we scored an open play goal in the Premier League. I don't mind scoring the corners, but even those, we need to score those if things become hard. Because, we went without scoring against Everton, and we scored one against Fulham and twice against Man United. The Everton one was very disappointing because Everton and Fulham, both of them actually, they were not really even coming to beat us because I don't think they had that many shots in those games. Everton maybe one shot on target, maybe less, and Fulham, they only had that like one attempt from Jimenez, and that is basically it. So they let us have the possession. They let us have the possession, but we didn't capitalize, and that is what we need to do. And it's going to be interesting in terms of teams. Now they started with their first team. I don't know if that is going to play a part as well, since they started with their first team, and some of their players are tired. And for us, players like Rice rested, Gabriel rested, Odegaard only played 45 minutes. Saliba only played 45 minutes. Saka only played like 20 minutes in that game, 25 minutes. So it could be a bit beneficial for us. I think Lewis Kelly could start. He only came on in the 65th minute or something. Havertz rested. I don't know if he's going to start or are we going to start both of them. I have an interesting formation for you guys because Jesus has scored a hat-trick. I don't think you can drop him. And Martinelli was on the bench. Do you keep him on the bench and start Trossard again? It's going to be interesting. So must-win game. Let's hope we do it, and then we move on to the next game against Ipswich. But first, let us focus on Crystal Palace. Which kind of lineup do I want us to go for in this game? So if we stick with the same formation, let's start with this one. Let's start with the usual 4-3-3. So defensively, I think it's easier. Raya. I don't know if you're going to wear the blue kit, by the way, the black one. The blue one we've not won a game with, so I prefer us wearing the black one. Timber, Saliba, Gabriel, and Lewis Kelly at the back. That will be my formation. I wouldn't be surprised if Arteta goes with Partey at right back and Timber at left back for this game, especially because of I don't think Partey was bad in that first half, but he was on was subbed off. So I don't know. For me, I want Partey in midfield, but that would be the difference I go for. And then Partey, Rice, and Odegaard. If Rice is 100% fit, and then Martinelli, Jesus, and Saka. That would be the ideal one because, Jesus just scored a hat-trick. Maybe some of us would argue to start Trossard ahead of Martinelli, no problem, but obviously they do rotate because, he's just played, I think, 2 games, so Martinelli comes in for this one. So that is the first one. Now, let's say Declan Rice is not fit. What would you do? You could start Merino there. Some would argue you can start Nwaneri there. That is what I wanted to see against Crystal Palace in the Carabao Cup, both Nwaneri and Odegaard. If Rice is not there, and then he moves, let's say, Partey to right back, then he probably will play Havertz in midfield, and I don't really want to see that one. So this is the second formation. I think for me, I could try and go for if Rice or Partey, whoever starts. So if we go with this one, a 4-1-3-2, this allows you to have Lewis Kelly, Gabriel, Saliba, Timber, Partey in midfield. This is if Rice doesn't make it. And then Odegaard as the 10, Martinelli on the left, Saka on the right, and then it allows you to fit in both Jesus and Havertz. So Havertz maybe, heads on the ball to Jesus and stuff like that, holds up the ball. Jesus makes the runs in behind like he did against Crystal Palace on Wednesday. And that allows you to still have Odegaard there, still have Saka there, still have Martinelli there. But Partey will have a lot of work to do unless one of the wing backs, drop into midfield. The Odegaard actually drops in a bit further back to get the ball and distribute it to Martinelli, Saka, Jesus, Havertz, or if Trossard is playing on the left side, whichever. So for me, I wouldn't mind seeing this. I don't think it's changing too much in terms of the formation. When Odegaard is out, we were playing with like Havertz and Trossard up front. It worked for some few games, didn't work for some few games, but with Odegaard's creation there, it allows you to have that. So I wouldn't mind seeing that at all, but I don't think we're going to go with that. I think if Rice is out, you're probably just going to go with Merino. And in this formation, if Rice is there and Arteta decides to play Partey at right back, then you can still see this formation with Rice in midfield and Partey at right back. If that is what Arteta decides to go for, then you're still able to have both Havertz and Jesus. And then, that would be my alternative formation. I wouldn't mind seeing that. Try something different. Sometimes you ask for both Nwaneri and Odegaard. why can't we get Havertz and Jesus in one game like this? Because Havertz is, I think, still our top scorer this season, so he still has some big goals this season, and Jesus has just got a hat trick. So the only other way you can fit in Jesus is if you just start him and leave Havertz on the bench, or you leave Trossard, Martinelli, and Sterling all on the bench, and then you start Jesus on the left wing. That's the other option. So let me know which one you guys would like to see. So if you just go with this one, would have Neto, Kivia, Merino, Jorginho, Nwaneri, Trossard, Sterling, Havertz, and Kakuri on the bench, or anyone else on the bench with that. So those are the formations I'd probably go for. My prediction for the game: must win. We cannot have another draw, another loss. And weirdly enough, we've drawn a few of our games in the last 1 month, and Crystal Palace have drawn a few as well. They drew against Aston Villa, they drew against Man City. So there's been a lot of draws between these two teams the last few games this past month. But in terms of our record against them, we've been doing good at their place recently. Let's hope more of the same. So I don't know. Do I feel like they're going to get a goal? We've kept clean sheet the last 2 games. They scored twice against us, but I think that is a case of, Kivia made a mistake for the first one and Ketch's very, very, very good goal for the second goal. So I am going to go for Crystal Palace nil, Arsenal 2. I predicted us to score 3 goals in midweek. We did that. They scored 1 more goal than expected them to score, but this time I'm going to go for Crystal Palace nil, Arsenal 2. Maybe could be a 2-1, but I'm just going to go for a 2-0. I'm going to go for Jesus to score again. Imagine if he scores another hat trick. That would be amazing, man. Just imagine. That would be fantastic. That's if he plays, obviously. So I'm going to go with Saka and Jesus to score the goals for this one. 2-0 win for Arsenal, clean sheet, back to winning ways in the Premier League. That would be very, very welcome. Let me know your prediction. Let me know your starting lineup. Which players would you start? Would you start Lewis Kelly? Would you like to see someone else at left back? Havertz, would you drop him? Would you try and start both of them? Let me know all that. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch up with you guys on the next one.